The dark side of Drake. You've heard the saying, not every smile is a sign of happiness? Well, few stories in music show this as clearly as that of Aubrey Drake Graham, the man who turned his wounds into hits but carries scars that neither fame nor money could erase. Behind the bright stages and lyrics that dominated the world, there's a story of loneliness, rejection, and silent battles that nearly swallowed him before he could conquer everything. Before we dive into this story full of highs and lows, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any revelations, and stay until the end. You're going to be surprised. You were born on October 24, 1986, in Toronto, Canada. Your father, Dennis Graham, was an American drummer who had played with legends like Jerry Lee Lewis. Your mother, Sandy Graham, was a teacher from a Canadian Jewish family. Sounds glamorous, right? But in your early years, the illusion fell apart. Your parents separated when you were just 5 years old. The home that should have been your fortress became a minefield of absences. You stayed with your mother, living in a modest lower-middle-class neighborhood, while your father returned to Memphis, where he faced legal troubles and periods of incarceration. Growing up without his presence was like living with a constant hole in your chest. You saw your father only in the summers, and when he didn't show up, the wound grew deeper. And it wasn't enough to deal with the absence of a father figure, there was something even crueler, the feeling of not belonging anywhere. Your identity was split. Jewish on your mother's side, black on your father's side, and in a Canada that, despite its multiculturalism, never let you forget you were the different one in any group. It was in this mix of confusion and pain that you started looking for an escape. And it came in an unlikely form, acting. At just 15, you landed a role in the teen series Degrassi, The Next Generation. In front of the cameras, everything seemed perfect, local fame, money coming in, recognition. But off-set, life was still heavy. Your mother was ill, battling health issues that left her frail and distant. The actor's salary wasn't as high as it seemed, and every paycheck went more toward keeping the bills paid than fueling dreams. And as if life wanted to test your limits, at the height of this phase, you faced bullying at school. Not for your talent, but for being the semi-famous kid who didn't fit the mold. Some mocked your style, others taunted you for being different. It was a silent loneliness. You smiled in interviews, but in your room, the silence screamed. That's when music started becoming more than a hobby, it became a necessity. You saw writing as a way to release the pain. Every rhyme was a confession, every beat a trapped scream. But the music world didn't welcome you with open arms. Many doubted you. The kid from the series wants to be a rapper, they said with sarcasm. And it wasn't just any music scene, it was rap, a competitive, unforgiving space full of prejudices, especially against someone from Canada with such a different background. Even so, you dove in. You recorded independent mixtapes, did collaborations, but you still didn't have a big hit. Money was running out, and the fear of going back to square one was real. It was at this point that you started feeling the weight of instability, nothing was guaranteed. While your Degrassi co-stars moved on to other roles, you threw yourself into the studio, trying to prove you weren't just the kid from Degrassi. But life had more trials in store. And they wouldn't come only from the professional side, they'd come from the heart. You started living through tumultuous romances, relationships that left you more exhausted than happy. Maybe because, deep down, you were still seeking in love something to heal the wounds of childhood. But as you'd soon discover, some of those stories would only hurt you more. And if you think it was tough so far, wait until you hear what happened when fame finally arrived. Fame hit like a tsunami. And at first, you believed it would heal everything, the pain of childhood, the rejections, the emptiness. Your name blew up with Best I Ever Had, and suddenly, that kid from Toronto was on the radar of the world's biggest labels. It was as if the universe had finally recognized your worth. But, you know how it works. Fame is seductive, but it's also a dangerous illusion. What no one told you is that when you reach the top, the silence changes. It's no longer the emptiness of loneliness, it's the constant noise of voices telling you what to do, who to be, how to live. And worse, it's the echo of criticism, some fair, some cruel, that starts to eat away at you from the inside. The parties got bigger, the tours longer, the friends more numerous, but few were genuine. You entered a world where hugs are calculated, smiles have ulterior motives, and every glance can be a transaction. And in the midst of it, your love life became a spectacle of its own. Beautiful women, famous faces, relationships that started with intensity and ended in controversial headlines. Every romance seemed promising, until jealousy, distrust, or distance destroyed everything. The most talked about case came when your name was linked to Rihanna. It was a cinematic romance, two music icons, chemistry on and off stage. But as happens in so many real stories, the fairy tale quickly turned into a game of back and forth, public hurts, and indirect jabs and songs. You sang about love and loyalty, but inside, you were tired of the disappointments. And as if personal dramas weren't enough, the industry started pulling you into the darker side of rap, rivalries, and public feuds. The most explosive was with Meek Mill in 2015. In a matter of hours, your name was on every website, social media was on fire, fans taking sides. It was as if, suddenly, you had to prove you deserved your place not just with music, but with lyrical wars and media survival strategies. You won that battle, but the emotional cost was high. Every diss track, every public attack, was another weight on your mental health. Behind the curtains, there was something few knew about: exhaustion. Endless tours, pressure to release hits, fear of losing relevance, and the price was your peace. There were days you woke up with no energy, nights when the hotel felt more like a gilded prison than a temporary home. Social media, once a tool to connect with fans, turned into a judgment arena. Any misstep was amplified, any mistake became fuel for haters. And it was in this scenario that one of the most delicate moments of your life happened: fatherhood. In 2018, the world found out you had a son, Adonis, from a brief and secret relationship with artist Sophie Brusso. The news didn't come from you, it came from a diss track by Pusha T, exposing something you wanted to keep private. The revelation hit like a bomb. Part of the public accused you of hiding your son, others called you a hypocrite. But what few considered is that, for you, it was a sensitive matter, an attempt to protect your child from the chaos of your public life. Still, the narrative was twisted, and once again, you were painted as the villain. That episode made you close off even more. Interviews became more calculated, lyrics more enigmatic. And deep down, that question that haunted you since adolescence returned. Who can I really trust? You had money, awards, recognition, but looking around, you saw few faces that would truly be there if it all ended tomorrow. And that realization started to eat away at you from the inside. But if you think fame only hurt, wait to see what happens when it starts to become a prison. Fame is like a glass castle, beautiful from afar, but fragile when you're inside. And even surrounded by luxury, you started to feel the cracks. On stage, the energy was electric. Thousands of voices screamed your name. But when the lights went out and the dressing room fell silent, the euphoria turned into something darker, an emptiness hard to explain. You had everything, and at the same time, nothing. The pressure to reinvent yourself with every album was suffocating. The fear of no longer being number one grew like a shadow that never left you in peace. You knew the industry is unforgiving, one day they applaud you, the next they forget you. And in the pursuit of staying on top, you started sacrificing parts of yourself. Sleep, privacy, real relationships, everything became currency to keep feeding a machine that's never satisfied. The rumors and attacks didn't stop either. Distorted quotes in interviews, alleged betrayals, feuds with other artists, every week seemed to bring a new reason for your name to trend. And no matter how much you learned to handle it in public, inside it was a constant drain. It wasn't just about dealing with criticism, it was about dealing with the feeling of being constantly misunderstood. Your circle of trust became smaller and smaller. Many times, the mansion that should have represented achievement and security became a maze of silence. True friends were rare, and even romantic relationships became temporary. You started to realize that in the world of fame, it's easy to surround yourself with people, but hard to surround yourself with loyalty. Fatherhood brought new meaning to your life, but also new weight. You wanted to protect Adonis from everything fame did to you, the pressures, the judgments, the unnecessary exposure. But you knew that wouldn't be easy. The world always wants to know more than it should. And for someone like you, used to turning every pain into music, the line between what's public and what's sacred became harder and harder to maintain. There were moments when isolation became your defense. Solo trips, days locked in the studio, messages left unanswered. It was as if, deep down, you were trying to shield yourself, but that shield also distanced you from the few real connections you had left. And when the silence of the early hours hit, the question returned, was it worth it? The truth is that Drake's life, as brilliant as it seems, is marked by internal battles that don't fit in lyrics or interviews. You learned that the price of fame isn't just physical exhaustion, it's the emotional toll of being seen as a product before being seen as a human being. And it's at this point that it becomes clear, not every success heals the wounds of the past. You still carry the weight of your father's absence, the rejection, the pressure to prove yourself, but now, that weight is amplified by millions of eyes watching, judging, and expecting something from you every single day. In the end, the dark side of your story isn't about public feuds or scandals. It's about the daily struggle to hold onto your essence in a world that tries to shape it all the time. It's about learning that, no matter how high you fly, the fall always seems to be lurking. Now that you know the dark side of this star, click on the other video and discover the other side of the story, the good side. And tell me, after all this, what do you really think about Drake? Tell us in the comments below.